Hello, everybody, and welcome to Wife Masterclass. This is your girl, the one sexy wife herself, Gail Crowder, and I am super excited that you have decided to join the broadcast tonight. We are in for a treat. Like I told you guys last week, this is a woman I have been stalking for about a year, her and her business partner, and I was so blessed when she said yes that she would be coming to Wife Masterclass. I do want to do a few little housekeeping things before we bring Rachel to the forefront to bless you guys today in our Wife Masterclass. The first thing is, if you have not registered for the 2017 Bringing Sexy Back to the Marriage Conference, you are doing yourself a disservice. Right now, I'm running our early bird special, which is $125, and we have a phenomenal new hotel. We have outgrown the last two hotels, and so that is truly a blessing. But we are going to the DoubleTree by Hilton in downtown Silver Spring, which is absolutely beautiful. So if you want to take advantage of that early bird special, just hit up bsbconference.com and go ahead and register, because I'm telling you, God has already shown me that this is going to sell out really quickly. We already have 8 women registered, and trust me, we're only 4 months into the year, and so I want to make sure that we have space for you. So that's the first thing. And if you're not familiar with Bringing Sexy Back to the Marriage, we are the premier conference for One Sexy Wife. So I just want to tell you, bsbconference.com, click on the link, take advantage of the early bird special. The second thing is, I wanted to welcome all my Mocha Moms. I had the pleasure of speaking to the Mocha Moms on Tuesday, and we had a wonderful time. I thank you guys so much for joining us. I know a lot of you guys are joining Wife Masterclass for the first time, and I just want to tell you welcome, and I just want to say thank you so much for allowing me to pour into you guys. But you're in for a treat tonight as well. A lot of people are asking me, Gail, where are you going to be in the next couple of weeks? I have some phenomenal things that are coming up, and so I won't be able to tell you everything that I have going on, but if you just hit up my website, gailcrowder.com, and click on the happening button, everything that I'm going to be doing for the next year actually is pretty much on the website. It's constantly changing. I'm constantly getting speaking engagements and all those kind of things, so that is a blessing. So just, if you follow me on there, also follow me on all my social media platforms, Gail Crowder, and I'll tell you where I'm going and what I'm doing. But for the next 2 weeks, I can tell you, on Sunday I will be pouring into my single women. So Kiki Ramsey and I will be doing a singles chat. So if you have any single friends that are looking to be married and be able to be on Wife Masterclass, just tell them to go to sealthedealforlove.com, sealthedealforlove.com, and we'll be pouring in on this Sunday, the 17th, at 8:30. If you're looking to join me live, there's still room at Get Courageous with Kiki Ramsey, and you can find out more information about that at kikiramsey.com, and she is offering a buy one, bring a friend for free special, which is phenomenal, and I will be hosting that lovely event. And so that's enough about that. But if you haven't registered for Bringing Sexy Back to the Marriage Conference, please don't wait. And I will tell you, people say that's a year away, but we're already planning. We're already planning to receive you. And again, I want to make sure that you reserve your spot at that discounted rate. Without further ado, I am so honored, and again, I have been stalking her and her partner for a year. I want to bring Raychel Chumley to Wife Masterclass. She is a phenomenal woman. She coaches women all over the world and couples all over the world, and I am so glad to bring you guys one of the best to Wife Masterclass. Raychel, please come forth and teach my ladies.
Hi guys, I am honored to be here. As Gail said, my name is Raychel Chumley, and some of you might have saw my bio, some of you might have just got on here a few seconds ago. So I am a life and marriage coach. I am the co-founder of BigBlueCouchCoaching.com, and that's our website, but I'm the co-founder of Big Blue Couch Coaching, and I'm also the president. And I am an author and I am a speaker, and my favorite topic to talk about is marriage. And so for the next few moments that we have together, I'm going to pour into you as much as I can, as much content as I can about this whole topic that the grass is greenest where you water it. I have been married to my husband since 2002. And I married my high school sweetheart, and I'm going to tell you some more about my story. I'm going to interweave some timeless biblical tips for you guys, and I'm going to give you as much as I can in 30 minutes. So if you don't already, now is your time to go grab a pen and paper because you're going to want to take notes. I'm going to try and slow down as much as I can. I know with my North Dakota accent and I talk a little fast, and so I'm going to try and slow down and give you guys as much as I can in the next 25 to 30 minutes. So let's start. So grass, when you think about it, really doesn't take a whole lot for it to grow. You need some really basic components. You need sunshine, you need grass seed, you need good soil, and you need water. But without these things, or if you neglect one or the other, weeds start to happen. And when weeds happen in a lawn, they take over really, really quickly. And it can have you tearing your hair out and completely frustrated trying to get this stupid little grass to grow. And marriage isn't really all that much different. Tonight I want to give you some basic secrets. Think of them as seeds for your lawn, and fertilizer for your lawn, and a healthy soil, and sunshine and water. Because it really doesn't take a whole lot to grow a healthy lawn, and it really doesn't take a whole lot to grow a healthy marriage. Sometimes we complicate it a little more than we should. So, secret number one, we're going to start right in with this, is it's not him, it's you. Secret number one, it's not him, it's you. And I know, I probably already lost some of you with just saying that phrase. But stick with me, girls. So, do you guys remember those iconic John Hughes movies of the 1980s? They'd been like Pretty in Pink, or The Breakfast Club, or any of those ones that was that era of the 1980s movies. It was the epitome of teenage angst. And we saw miraculous things happen in like 90 short minutes. Miraculous things like the geek ends up with the prom queen, or the rebel is transformed by love, or the lonely girl that's been neglected through the whole movie finally finds her prince at the end. It was happily ever after. And it was glorious, but the honest to God truth is it wasn't real. We all love happy endings, and as women, we have been dreaming about the man we were going to marry, the marriage we were going to have since we were little girls for many of us. We all wanted those happy lives. We all wanted those happy marriages. And when you guys walked down the aisle, when I walked down the aisle in that beautiful white gown, carrying those flowers that you carried that day, you carried with you a bag of expectations. And I love that if you were on last week, Gail talked about expectations and expectations in your marriage and how dangerous that can be. Because that day when you walked down the aisle to say I do, you were carrying a great big bag of expectations with you. You wanted that perfect marriage. You wanted the faithful husband and the children, maybe even that white picket fence. You wanted all of those things. You wanted to be happy. But my question for you is, how long did it take before you realized that your dream was not going to be like your reality? If you were like me, that bubble popped way before you were ready. Because honestly, marriage is a real struggle. And you don't have to be married very long to figure that out. Some of us don't have to be married long at all to figure out that marriage is going to be a struggle. I expected a knight in shining armor. And honestly, I got a flawed man covered in tinfoil. And I bet for many of you, you kind of felt the same way. And maybe just a little bit of disappointment from that. But life isn't like the movies. Things don't resolve in 90 short minutes. It takes time to move from crisis to resolution. And we don't always get the ending we want. Marriage is a sacrifice. And sacrifice is always painful. But the last time I checked, happy marriages are not 50-50. They're 100 and 100, each giving everything you got. Because what happens when you don't is we quickly move from disappointment into self-pity. Faster than we can say, this isn't the life I signed up for. But if we want to have that green, beautiful, luscious lawn of a marriage, we have to attack that weed of self-pity. And that comes from expectations that were not met, and hurts that were not resolved, and things that happened that you were not expecting. So when you come and hear me speak, or if you hear my business partner Mandy speak on the Big Blue Couch, we're a big fan of words. We're both authors, we're speakers, and we like to take words and really dig into what they mean. Because oftentimes we throw words around that we're not exactly sure what they mean. And I want to tell you guys what self-pity actually means. So make sure you write this down. Self-pity is described as a feeling of pity for yourself because you believe you have suffered more than is fair or reasonable. I was drowning in self-pity for so many years of my marriage. Self-pity is super dangerous because it brings friends along with it. These friends are bitterness. These friends are unforgiveness. These friends are terrible and will steal your joy. You have to dig out the weed of self-pity as soon as you recognize it. And there is a way to recognize it. And I want to give you some of the things that self-pity sounds like, the words you say, and the things that you might be thinking. Sounds like, this is unfair. Or why me? Or this isn't the life that I signed up for. Or even, why do I have to make all the changes? Why can't he make the first move? Or even, I don't deserve this. So if you've ever said those things or thought those things, that's the weed of self-pity. My husband and I got married in 2002, like I said. But part of the story that I haven't told you yet is that we were 18 and 20 when we got married. We were babies. We had no business getting married at 18 and 20. But we had a lot of life happening during that time, and we didn't want to live together before we got married, and so we decided the best next step would be getting married. And because of that, because of our immaturity, because we didn't know how to be married or even how to be adults barely, we went through some really, really difficult seasons in our marriage. In fact, 10 months into our marriage, I walked out the door ready to sign divorce papers. What happened next is kind of just a big miracle because we should have ended up divorced. But the next 8 years of our marriage wasn't some quick healing turnaround. In fact, it was so toxic that we now call those years the wastelands. I mean, have you ever experienced something that was so terrible that you literally had to name it? Well, that was the wastelands for us. And I assumed that because I had honored my marriage vows, I mean the ones that I hadn't already broken by walking out the door with another man, I thought God was going to just reach down from heaven, cause a miracle, and my marriage was going to be fixed. Just like that. Well, that's not what happened. It wasn't going to be just like that, because the behavior that caused us to reach that dark place in our marriage 10 months in was going to continue. The drinking was going to continue. The anxiety was going to continue. The depression was going to continue. I would continue to have panic attacks. The affairs were going to continue on both sides, my husband and I. The emotional abuse would continue. And it was the darkest season of my entire life. But by God's grace, we went through it. And we survived. And today, if you ask us, we have a strong marriage because of it. But it's because of one really important reason. My happiness didn't determine my commitment. My happiness didn't determine my commitment. That meant that I looked at that weed of self-pity and I got rid of it when I needed to. I stopped waiting for him to make the first move because I had been waiting years for him to make the first move. And he hadn't. And he clearly wasn't going to anytime soon. But the honest truth was it was me that needed to do the heart work first. It was me that needed to get over the bitterness and give my broken heart and those broken pieces to God so he could start working through them. It was me that needed to offer forgiveness first. It was me that needed to learn how to apologize first. That was a hard lesson for me to learn to say I'm sorry when I had been so hurt by him. I started making the changes first in our marriage because I knew my own behavior and my own thoughts were that fertile ground where my marriage lawn was going to grow from. And it was unhealthy and full of the weed of self-pity. So that is secret number 1. It's not him, it's you. Secret number 2, your words matter. Secret number 2, your words matter. We know that our words reflect the condition of our heart and the condition of our mind. But did you realize that the things that you say also reflect the condition of your marriage and how you're feeling about your husband, how you're feeling about your relationship? The truth is, if we're honest as women, all too often we're destroying our men and our marriages with our words. I want to give you a couple of scriptures to write down because the power of your words and controlling your tongue is mentioned over 100 times in the Bible. Here's some ones to write down. Proverbs 21:23. Whoever keeps his mouth and tongue keeps him out of trouble. Proverbs 21:19. It is better to live in a desert land than with a quarrelsome and fretful woman. Now that's a great one for you. Proverbs 21:19. And the last one is Matthew 12:35 through 37. And I'm going to go ahead and look down at my notes for this because I don't want to get these words wrong. So, for out of the abundance, the mouth speaks. The good person out of his good treasure brings forth good, and the evil person out of his evil treasure brings forth evil. I tell you that on the day of judgment, you will give an account for every careless word that you speak. For by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned. Now, if that verse doesn't give you pause to think, it should. Because this is serious stuff, girls. It says right in there, every careless word out of our mouths will be judged someday. God wouldn't bother with a warning like this if he did not think that this was important and put an enormous amount of importance on the things that you say. Which means he puts an enormous amount of importance on the condition of your heart and the condition of your mind. Because out of the heart, the mouth speaks. But I want to give you a little bit of hope before you kind of spiral down on me thinking, oh man, I am never going to get this stuff. Communication is a skill. That's a good thing because you can always improve your skills. But it takes that heart issue. It takes you looking for that weed of self-pity, looking to see what it is that I'm saying and how I'm saying it, and doing the hard work of working through that first. Because let me tell you, communication tips are going to be Band-Aids until you do those hard work issues. They're going to be Band-Aids covering gaping wounds that it won't take long to scratch the surface and all of a sudden unhealthy communication happens. Because it all starts with your heart and with your mind. And I also want to tell you it's not impossible. For me, this was the secret that I had to take care of first. I had to take care of the way that I was talking, the way I was speaking about my husband, the way I was speaking to my husband, because I had zero control over the things that I said sometimes. And I was just a mean and hurtful woman for a lot of my marriage. And it was in the middle of us walking through those wastelands that I got challenged on this, in a Bible study actually, about how important my words were to my husband and what I was saying. And it took me years to start to be able to turn this thing around and start communicating with wisdom and with kindness, because I had to do all those hard things first. I had to look at my heart. I had to look at my mind and see what was still broken and what I was still bitter over and what I needed to work through. In fact, I remember distinctly biting the inside of my cheek because snark and sarcasm came out so easily in my life then. Not everything that you want to say should be said. Not everything that you want to say should be said. You need to learn to choose your words wisely, girls. And if you are having a hard time with that, you need to do the hard thing and look and see the why behind it. Look and see what's the condition of your heart and the condition of your mind. Secret number 2, your words matter. Secret number 3, You can't pour out what you don't have. Secret number 3, you cannot pour out what you do not have. If you don't take care of yourself first, girls, you cannot take care of your man, and you cannot take care of your marriage. You can't take care of a lawn like that. You can't just stand out there with a hose that's not connected to water and expect miracles to happen. And it's the same thing with us and with our marriages. We have to take self-care seriously. And honestly, we don't. Whether we say we do or not, studies show that as women, we do not take it very seriously at all, because 71% of us feel like it's too hard. And when something is too hard, you make an excuse and you quit. So there can be a lot of excuses when it comes to self-care in your life and why you're not taking care of yourself first so that you can take care of your husband and you can take care of your marriage and your kids and everything else you have to do in your life. What are some of those excuses or things that you might be thinking? Is it, I don't have time? Or is it, isn't that selfish? Shouldn't I be taking care of other people first? Or maybe I'll do it after the kids are grown, when I have more time. Someday I'll have more time to take care of myself. Or if I don't do this, nobody else will. Girls, your thoughts, your words, your emotions, your heart, all come down to the condition of your heart and your soul. You have to take care of yourself, and you have to make it a priority. Marriage is completely frustrating sometimes, even on your best days. You're two imperfect people trying to build a life together. Can you imagine how much harder it is when you're not taking care of yourself, when that bucket of water is completely empty and you're standing out there in your garden trying to water flowers and water your grass without any water? We do that so often in our marriages, and then we wonder what went wrong. And it's as simple as taking care of yourself and filling that bucket up first. Can you imagine how much easier it is to communicate with your spouse? How much easier it is to get through those horrible seasons that we all walk through in our lives? If you're taking care of yourself first, if you're filling up that empty bucket first. It's just like on an airplane. They tell you to make sure you secure your own oxygen mask first and then help the people around you. You have to take it seriously in your marriage too. I really did struggle with this for a long time in my marriage. And I'm the mom of 3 little ones. They're 9 and 6 and 3. So we have a busy household. And not only that, my husband is gone half the year for his job. And so I had to learn how to take care of myself when I wasn't expecting at all to be a single part-time mom. And I know a lot of you guys on the line here are single moms. And I know a lot of you are probably doing the same thing I'm doing, where maybe you are switching on and off with a spouse, or a spouse is gone, or you have an ex that you're sharing childcare with. And for much of my adult life, I struggled with depression and anxiety. And I was one of those people who experienced a lot of postpartum after I would have my kids. And that brought a lot of panic attacks. And I ended up living in these great big ugly gray sweatpants. Now, if you were here on a stage, I would probably pull out those sweatpants because I still have them because they make a great visual aid. And I'm not talking about like your cute yoga pants or your even women's sweatpants. These were men's 2XL gray Hanes sweatpants. Like nothing sexy wife like Gail teaches about it. They were hideous. And I lived in those for years because my outside was starting to match how I felt on the inside. I felt like I had lost myself after I had all the kids. I felt like my body I had no control over. And the body I had was clearly not the body I have right now. And I had to learn how to accept all of that. I had to learn that taking care of myself was the only way that I was going to be mentally and spiritually and physically and emotionally healthy. And if I didn't do that first, I couldn't do any of those other things. I had to really embrace this idea for my marriage, because without it, I wouldn't have been able to do the things like I talked about before. Without it, I wouldn't have been able to even know that self-pity could be a problem, or know that my words actually mattered, and that I was responsible for making the first move when it came to my bad behavior in my marriage. God started working on my heart about 4 years ago to start bringing forgiveness and restoration to my own heart first, and then to my marriage. And it's really not been the same sense. I had to apply all these same secrets that I'm teaching you guys tonight. I had to look for that self-pity and the friends it brings along with the pride and the bitterness and the unforgiveness. I had to look at my words and how I was speaking to my husband and about my husband. And I had to stop saying a lot of what I was saying, because everything I was doing was criticism and condemnation and all of those things, and comparison. All of those things that we get into a habit of doing when we don't look at our hearts and our minds first. Those are all symptoms of your heart and your mind not being in the right place when it comes to your marriage and your husband. I had to water my own grass in my own front yard, in my own life, before I could even attempt to try to pick out the weeds in my marriage and attempt to try to have some kind of grass growing in my marriage. Like I said before, it does not take a lot to grow a healthy green lawn. It takes perseverance. It takes patience. It takes a lot of those things that we maybe don't think about. But without them, you end up completely frustrated, because weeds will take over in your lawn, and they're going to take over in your life and in your marriage. And all of a sudden, you're up to your eyeballs in frustration, and you think you did something wrong. You picked the wrong person. You clearly got married to the wrong guy. That must be the problem. And you start looking for other fixes. I've totally been there, and I get that. Thanks be to God, that is not who I am today. You know what, though? As hard as those wastelands years were, I wouldn't trade those years for anything, because it was those years of destruction and self-pity and pride and all that yuckiness that happened and all the hurt that happened, those were the years that polished off those hard edges of who I was. They were the years that helped me put up a looking glass to see what was going on in my life. They were the years I learned the most about myself and my strength and the things that God had called me to do in my life. All happened because of the wasteland years in my marriage. There was no reason to feel self-pity over those years. Those years now I can look back on and say they were a blessing. Trust me, I would never want to go back, and I would never wish them on anybody else. But they were a blessing to me, because they taught me lessons that I wouldn't have learned any other place. They taught me to look for self-pity and to attack it as soon as I see it. Those wasteland years taught me that my words mattered, and they taught me that it was so important to take care of myself. They taught me how to grow a healthy, beautiful lawn in my marriage that would last season for season. And I always think it's kind of ironic, because during some of the worst years of our marriage, we lived in a home that we literally could not grow grass. No lawn was had at any time while we lived in this home, because the soil was so sandy, we could get nothing to grow, no matter how hard we tried. And we tried season after season to make grass grow there with all the other components, but the soil was wrong. And we ended up having a rock yard. It was beautiful, but it was rock because nothing would grow. And so if you're in those kind of seasons in your marriage when you feel like something is just not right, the soil's not right, the rain's not coming, I feel like I'm standing out here with an empty bucket, can I encourage you to take these 3 secrets tonight and look at yourself and see maybe where there's pockets of self-pity, pockets of where there's maybe some pride or some bitterness or some unforgiveness that you need to work through. I know I did. That was the only way that we got to the healthy marriage we have now. Marriage is really not that different than growing a lawn. And I know that tonight when you were even thinking about what I was going to be talking about, you might have been thinking, what in the heck is she even going to say that has to do with marriage and taking care of grass? But when you apply these simple secrets, and trust me, I'm saying simple, not easy, because they're not easy, but they really are simple, you can do amazing things with your marriage. And so I'm hoping that tonight that I gave you just a little bit to think about, to go a little bit deeper into these topics. And I have a couple of resources I know we're going to talk about a little bit here, but I'm going to send this back to Gail to see whether or not we have any questions coming in or for any of our next steps. So thank you guys for listening and for letting me be a part of this class tonight.
Hello.
Hi.
I thought I didn't need to unmute myself. Rachel, that was phenomenal. And I will tell
Thank
you
you.
that listening to you speak, of course, I knew we had synergy because when we got on the phone, it was like our stories was very similar with our mouths killing our marriage and, of course, pointing the finger to the other person and all those things. And I just want to reiterate some of these points because I know some women have just joined in because they couldn't get on in the Hangout, but they're listening through YouTube. The first thing that really you said was, it's not him, it's you. And that is one of the hardest things we as women, especially wives, want to take credit for. And you can say, well, yeah, I'm perfect, and it's him. But you play a part in it. Like you said, it's 100 and 100, not just 50 and 60. It's 100 and 100 in the marriage. So it's not him, it's you. You can only take and change what you can change and what God asks you to do. The second thing I want to reiterate, your words matter. Our mouths as wives can be lethal weapons. We can either use them to build or we can use to tear down. And I'm so glad you said that because, again, you know, for people who know my story, know that, you know, Gail left me behind because of my mouth. Because, no, he really did. And I
know.
But the same mouth that I used to tear it down is the same mouth that I used along with God's help to rebuild my marriage, and it's strong now. But you have to, you know, you have to learn to shut it up sometimes. And the third thing is you can pour out what you don't have. I literally just did a Facebook Live about taking time for yourself because I know what it is to give, and have absolutely nothing left. And then the person that you cut a covenant with, the only person on earth you cut a covenant with is your husband, and you have nothing left because you've given it to the world. We just talked I just did that on my Facebook live chat, and I want to tell you, ladies, and I didn't do this at the beginning, if you have any questions for Rachel, you can hit her up either in the chat box or you can hit her up on the Facebook event page, the Wife Masterclass event page, and she will be happy to answer any of those questions. Now, if you don't want to, you know, some people are shy about posting questions or asking questions. This is the time to get your stuff met. This is a safe place for you to do it, so you can either do it in the chat or you can send a message on the Facebook page. Or if you want to email her or hit her up on Facebook personally, you're more than welcome to do that. And she's going to give you her email address. And then she also has some special offers she's going to want to talk to you about. So I'm going to turn it back over to Rachel, and then I will end Wife Masterclass. So Rachel, tell them about some wonderful things that you have going on and you want to impart into them.
Okay, sounds good. So you guys, first of all, I'll tell you how you can find me. So I'm on Facebook, I'm on all of the social media stuff, but you're going to need to look under Big Blue Couch Coaching. So I don't have anything under Raychel Chumley necessarily that you'll find. So it'll be Facebook/Big Blue Couch Coaching. You can find us there. Our website is www.bigbluecouchcoaching.com. And we have so many resources on that website for you guys, but I want to touch on a couple of things because I know everybody listening here had a moment where you're like, ooh, that's me. So if that was you, I want to give you some next steps. I don't want you to just go home and be like, oh, that was great, and then you all just move on, because that, we know, is not helpful at all. So the first one is called the Celebrate Your Man program. And this was a program that I developed. Actually, it started developing years ago. It started as a grassroots movement in my house where I just had women come and we'd talk about some of the things that I was learning in school. It was my way to practice being a marriage coach. And so what happened, though, is this amazing curriculum developed out of it. And we've been using it for the past few years in our group coaching and in our private coaching. And just a few months ago, about 6 months ago, we turned it into a product. Because we had women asking for, what do I do if I can't get to a live event? What do I do if you're busy and you don't have any more openings for clients? So we created the whole Celebrate Your Man program. And tonight I talked about 2 of the weeks that we spend time in, and that was the self-pity and the Your Words Matter. And so we dig deep. It is 8 weeks worth of coaching content. It's a 200-page workbook that gets sent to you. And actually, that program, you have the option of getting physical products, or you can actually download it. And I know it's cheaper to download the PDF and the MP3 files, to do it that way. So those secrets that I shared tonight, those are packed full inside of that coaching program, along with 6 more topics that I didn't even get a chance to talk about tonight. So if that was you, that would be a resource that I would definitely have you check out. You can find it at the website. I know they're going to be posting it in the group, and there's probably a photo happening right now. And then the second one would be something we have coming up actually pretty soon here, and that's the Art of the Pause teleclass. And I spent a lot of time talking to you guys about you can't pour out what you don't have. That is the whole concept behind Art of the Pause. And this is a teleclass coming up on May 2nd. So you don't have to be live. We can't even see you. You can show up in your jammies. But the Art of the Pause is teaching a whole lifestyle of how to actually take care of yourself. Not just some tips and techniques that maybe work for a while, but we get down to the why you're not doing it, and then we show you how to start doing it. And so that you can also find at the website. Get your tickets for that. Space is actually limited for that event as well, because we only have so much space for phone calls and for web participants. But that night you would get both taught by me and by Coach Mandy. So that's another one that if you guys are like, you know what, my bucket's been empty for a super long time, and I need a way that actually works to take care of myself. And it's stuff I apply. I got 3 little kids and a husband gone half the year. And if it works for me, honey, it will work for you. So those are my next steps. And like I said, you can find me on Facebook, Big Blue Couch Coaching. You can find us on our website. We are on Twitter. If Twitter's your thing, you can find us there. And we do have an Instagram account. So you can find us everywhere, but just Big Blue Couch Coaching.
All right. And I just want to say thank you so much, Raychel. The links to the next steps are in they will be posted on my Facebook page. They will be posted in the events page and also on the YouTube page as well. And so we have a lot of people watching through YouTube, and so just make sure that you look for those links. I know Letitia has put them up, and so if you guys don't have any questions, I don't know, I don't see any questions, but again, you don't have to be shy about any questions or anything like that. Because at the end of the day, this is why Wife Masterclass was created, for you to get your questions answered. And again, if you're shy, I know last week I didn't have any questions that happened, but I will tell you, once we got off, I was inundated with questions, which is fine, and I understand it. I understand that you guys are really busy. I just want to tell you, thank you so much for taking out the next couple of Thursdays. You don't want to miss. Next week we will have the wonderful LaDon Black that will be joining us. She's a relationship expert and a radio talk show host. So we are super excited that she will be joining us. I just want to tell Raychel, thank you so much. Again, make sure that you follow her on social media, the Big Blue Couch Coaching, on all the social media platforms. And I want to tell you again, thank you so much for joining Wife Masterclass. I love you guys, and I will see you next week. Be safe.